Good afternoon from the farm. So since I'm a little bit too wordy for like reels and short form video, I keep getting like a notification like, oh, videos over 3 minutes won't be shown to like new viewers. I decided I would take a crack at posting on YouTube because I got this YouTube channel when we got the farm. It's like once you pick a name, you gotta get all the socials for it. So technically we also have like the TikTok name and everything, but I've never posted on there. So anyway, I wanted to talk about the new sheep paddock, which is finally done. So all in all, the project took us about a month. And the reason that it took that long is because Mike and I both have off-farm jobs. So we had to do those and work around the weather and just other obligations. But we finally got it finished, and I posted a kind of funny little video the other day of us moving the sheep into it. So right now it's just wide open. So it's like probably 3 or 4 acres. I don't really know. Because it's not really a perfect square either. So right now it's wide open. We put the sheep in and decided to just give them free run of the place for a few days to let them get used to the new fence, because bare wire, which we use, don't mind that panel, but it's just bare steel wire, can be actually hard for sheep to see. We have like a training paddock out back of the barn where we put them all like in groups to get used to bare wire, and like we put flagging tape. I made a video about it. We put flagging tape on that so that they'll be able to understand that it's there, but they don't have great vision. So we just wanted them to like get familiar with all of the boundaries of the fence. And we do like kind of the same strategy with pigs and everything too. It just lets them get sort of comfortable. So it's 4 strands of wire. This second one from the bottom is actually the ground line. So every post is like a grounding rod, essentially. Because last year, with how dry it was, we found that our electric fence was really not very effective, just because, so the electric fence, like there's a grounding rod that your energizer attaches to. And then when an animal touches the fence, which is attached to like the hot wire, it like completes a circuit, and that's what delivers the shock. So if the ground is really dry, then the ground will not conduct electricity from like the grounding rod to that animal to the, like where the fence is. So it really can reduce the effectiveness of your electric fence system if it's very dry and you just rely on one very deep-seated grounding rod, which we did. So we were having struggles last year with animals not respecting the fences and everything. So we saw a reel somewhere, I can't give credit because I don't remember where we saw it, where they had this setup where they used the T-posts for grounding rods. So each of these, because they're like powder coated or whatever, we actually had to grind off the paint where we attached the ground line, the wire that I call it the dead line, or the dead wire. And then we ground off a little bit of the paint at the bottom that goes in the ground. Just that way the paint wouldn't interfere with the ability for the T-posts to conduct electricity. So far it seems to be working like a hot damn. I watched a lamb touch it last night, and I mean, I shouldn't really find that entertaining, but I kind of do sometimes when they're not paying attention, and then they like back into the wire, and then you hear it zap, and then they're like, and they rush forward. It doesn't hurt them. Sheep need the fence to be hot because of their thick wool. So otherwise, like if you just don't have it strong enough zap, they'll just go right through it. We have seen that happen. So it was a little bit tedious, like grinding every post in 2 spots, attaching all the wires. Like we also, like parts of this paddock are really thick, like with like bushes and tall grass. Kubota's out here doing a patrol with me. So we had to like run 2 string trimmers, I guess is the technical term, but weed whackers and clear paths, and we had to chainsaw and cut back a bunch of trees and everything where we wanted to run the lines. So it was quite a labor intensive project, but it's so super nice that it's done. and seems to be working really well. So anyway, the plan is to like section this off. This year we'll just use the movable mesh fence because we don't have enough time and supplies to grid it up like really small like we want to, but that is the plan for the future, to be able to rotationally graze them. So we gave them the whole area, for one, like I said, to get used to the fence, and for another because we have to have a movable shade structure that goes with them, and right now that's still in progress, so it's almost done. And this way they can go to different parts of the paddock in the day to get shade or to get out of the rain or whatever, because there's treed areas, but then there's like a bunch of it that's very, very open. And so we don't want to confine them to a section that's like wide open and then it be like 30 degrees and them all be really uncomfortable and like suffering. So while that shade structure is being finished, we'll actually probably end up making several of them. They just get to have full run of the paddock. So, but ideally, and in future, it'll be gridded off into smaller paddocks so that we can move them from one section to another. And then they'll like eat everything down evenly, because right now I can see that they're just sort of like going around and like eating their favorite things and leaving the stuff that they don't really like. And you don't want that for the health of your pasture long term. So, because like there's, I don't know if you like, they've obviously found something really delicious here and eaten it down like really short, but then you can see there's like tons of long grass. So when we confine them to a smaller area, it forces them to sort of like eat everything down, and then you move them to a fresh area. And how often that happens depends on a few different factors. So what time of year it is, like in the spring when everything is growing really rapidly, you want to move them frequently, like every 2 to 4 days, just for the health of the pasture. It doesn't really have as much to do with the sheep. And then as it gets into summer and things sort of slow down, you can leave them on an area for 10 to 14 days, depending on the size of the area and the size of your mob. Like those will be determining factors, but you don't really want to leave them in any one place for longer than 21 days because of parasites. So if you move them at least every 21 days, then that interrupts the parasite cycle. Last year, even with our like sort of not super consistent and like janky system, we did not have to deworm our sheep or use any parasite control on them like at all. So I think we might have I think we usually like deworm them in the spring, and then a lot of people find actually like worm load peaks in sort of like August or even September, and then some places will deworm them again. But we managed to have everyone in really good health. We did not deworm them again until this spring, like right before lambing. And some people feel a type of way about worming them unnecessarily, but we just did the whole flock because I don't feel super confident in like determining who desperately needs it and who doesn't, especially with like them about to have babies. And you don't want to worm them after okay, there's different schools of thought on that, and maybe I'll make another video, but either way, I have read that if you deworm them while they're nursing, then it can actually increase parasite resistance because they get a more diluted sort of dose of the dewormer through the milk, and then the parasites that are in the lambs already are just able to like build up resistance. So we chose not to do that. We did them all before they had babies. And so now going forward, we will monitor them. We look at body condition. Right now it can be a bit challenging to tell because we have a couple of girls that like supporting lambs really takes it out of them, and their body condition is not amazing. It's getting better, but it's like, oh, do you have parasites? And then I have to catch them, and I have to check their famacha, which is like I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, like the inside of their eyelid for pinkness. And that's another way you can determine if you're not able to like submit a fecal sample to get it checked. But anyway, so we're just keeping an eye on everybody, and we'll just monitor them throughout the summer season. But hopefully we'll just be able to rotate everybody frequently enough that we'll stay ahead of the parasite cycle, and that will all be wonderful. So the first day we had the sheep out, we just left them out here like by themselves. We didn't put the dog out. We wanted to kind of let them, get used to everything before, because Kubota had not met all of them, like because we've brought a bunch of new sheep onto the property and we had them in various and assorted places, like separated from each other, because quarantining is good practice, even though we knew really well where these sheep were coming from and they were all very healthy and everything. So, but it's still best practice to, do some kind of quarantine protocol. So we didn't quarantine them as long as we would if we were buying sheep from somewhere that we weren't super familiar with. And where like the majority of our sheep had already come from, but we did have them separated. So a few of them hadn't met Kubota. They're all used to living with livestock dogs, so they're not super nervous, but we just didn't want his eagerness to like, sniff new sheep, because he likes to meet everybody. We didn't want his eagerness to like meet everybody cause anybody to go through the fence. We want them to interact with the fence in a way that will train them to not want to touch it without any sort of pressure. So I put him back in yesterday. It makes me nervous always to have sheep in places with no dog after last fall, when some of our sheep were eaten by a bear that didn't have dog with them. So I got him back out with them, and he's most delighted. He prefers to be, don't mind that piece of cardboard. He prefers to be with his sheep. So he's, every time I put him in with them, it's like that song, Reunited and It Feels So Good. I can't sing. Anyway, so he's back with them. Everybody's happy. We will probably fence them off. Like we'll probably bring out the mesh fence and create like a smaller area for them and then start rotating them. Maybe this weekend. I've got a bunch of stuff to do in the interim. I was hoping to only have them kind of like free ranging for 3 days, but it might be a few more days than that. So that is the excitement of the new paddock. And when we planned this fencing project, we did not anticipate that we were going to be adding like 44 new sheep this year. Our goal was to add like 4. But I mean, it worked out beautifully. We're very delighted to have all these wonderful sheep. So we already are planning our next paddock build because we're going to need way more space. But first of all, we have to build a sort of weaning pen, because the lambs will not, like, to try and get back to their mothers, they will not stay in this hot wire. Like, they'll just plow through it. So we need to make a paddock with hard fence. Well, that's why I call it hard fence. So like wire mesh or something of that nature. Something that they can't just slip between the wires and escape to try and get back to their moms. The moms will stay like in the fence. They won't try and go through just to get to their lambs. In fact, a lot of them with lambs that are giant are really showing signs of being ready for their babies to leave, be weaned. So we have to build that quite soon, and then we can start weaning lambs, because some of them are getting to be real big. And like there's some thoughts on like the age being sort of when you determine, like a lot of people who raise pasture sheep wait until 12 weeks. But I think this year we're probably going to do it by weight. So anybody over 45 pounds or 60 days of age, whichever comes first, we'll probably pull them, just because like they're huge. They're all eating. Like I've been observing them really closely. Everybody's eating and drinking really well. Like they're eating grass. So, and when we put them in their own paddock, we'll be able to supplement them a little bit with, some pelleted feed just to help them sort of continue to grow well and go through the transition from being with their moms a little bit easier. So that's kind of the plan going forward. So there'll be, I'm sure, posts about the new weaning paddock that is going to go up. Hopefully we'll make some progress on it this weekend. And but yeah, we're really pleased with this fence so far. Everything, now that it's done, like it just feels amazing. I'm so glad that we got it finished, because it did feel like it was just going on. And we learned a ton of things. Like I mentioned, I think in some of my other posts, that like on my Instagram or Facebook, we don't have a ton of like topsoil in some parts of the farm. Like when we were digging holes for some of these wooden posts, like to hold the gate, we got like a foot, maybe a foot and a half down. So we had to like set them in with concrete and I know you're not supposed to put wood in concrete because it'll just rot, but honestly, like, we didn't have a lot of other options if we wanted the posts to like hold the weight of a gate over time. And by the time it rots, like, that'll be a future me problem. Or maybe it won't. Maybe it won't even rot in my lifetime. We do have a lot of like very dry times, so it's not going to be sitting in, and up here, like where it's really rocky, like water does not sit under the ground. Like, it drains away through the layers of shale and whatever else it is. So I'm really not super concerned about those posts rotting. And we did have to use a few of the ones where we sunk them into cinder blocks, because they're just like, you couldn't even pound the posts in like 6 inches. So we just do what we can. And but yeah, so we learned a lot about putting posts in the ground and how to run like electric fence really efficiently. So far so good. And I'm sure I will post again with some updates and details on our next projects. I don't know if you can see the sheep out there. They are just like loving it, but the grass is so deep that they literally can just vanish. I had to wander around a little bit when I first came out here to even find them, because I could hear them. So I'm like, oh, they're in that back corner there. But I had to get really close to them before I could actually see them, because the grass is so tall. But that's good. There's lots of good nutrients and everything out here for them. So it'll help the ewes that are nursing, multiple lambs in particular, to just maintain really good body condition. And it'll also help the lambs learn how to be self-sufficient and eat grasses, and their moms will show them, what's good. And yeah, so that's the update on the sheep paddock. I hope everybody is having a great week, and we'll see you in the next one.